All right, welcome into another episode of the Goodman and Hummel podcast. I'm Jeff Goodman. He is Robbie Hummel, and let's get right to it. I mean, listen, we just got some breaking news come down. Arizona gets their penalties. Sean Miller gets his penalties. Book Richardson and Mark Phillips get theirs. And Sean Miller didn't get anything. Now, he only had one level one thrown at him for this, and it was a failure to monitor. Book Richardson, the former assistant who went to jail for all this, got 10-year show cause, which basically doesn't mean he can't be hired. It basically means if he's hired, the school has certain restrictions that he's not going to be able to abide by. They gotta show a reason to hire him or something like it. It's stupid, but it makes it very difficult for Book Richardson to ever be hired again. Mark Phelps, 2-year show cause, former assistant. They both, Phelps and Book both had some academic fraud issues. But Book obviously had also the bribery. He went to jail. Tony Bland went to jail, USC. Sean Miller doesn't get anything. Arizona gets off basically with nothing. Recruiting restrictions, Rob, nothing here. What's your immediate reaction to this?
Just that I'm so sick of talking about it, and I think it's a joke. I mean, I really think this is comical at this point. I just have a hard time believing with some of these cases that the head coach just doesn't know what's going on. Just from being inside of a college basketball program for the 5 years that I felt like Matt Painter knew if I went out on a certain night. Nonetheless, if his assistants were paying guys or offering to pay guys. So I think this whole thing is a sham. I think it's a joke, and I am so sick of talking about it that I think every time one of these comes down, it's just like, all right, just get this shit over with Kansas and LSU, and let's just move on, because nothing's happened to them either, probably.
So this is the IARP is the one that's handled all these recent cases, right? It didn't handle Oklahoma State, and they got they're the only one that got a postseason ban without self-imposing. Auburn self-imposed, Arizona self-imposed. Auburn wasn't going to the tournament. Arizona might have a couple of years ago, but they weren't in great shape either. So all these IARPs, the difference is they're independent. So the people that are basically the judge and jury on these are independent of the NCAA and more using legal manners to try to figure out what the penalties are, which is actual proof, right? So I understand that. What I don't understand is Book Richardson getting 10 years. I think that's the bullshit here. Is I'm fine with Sean Miller, getting a couple games or whatever he could have gotten, or getting off completely scot-free, because again, they didn't have anything on him. And I still feel like all the stuff that came out on him years ago publicly with DeAndre Ayton and $100,000, that was never proved. It was never proved. So I'm still under the deal. You got to have proof. You can't have hearsay. You can't have conversations in which you don't have actual proof that money changed hands. And I don't think, I think in the past, the NCAA has gone with that. They've just said they could do whatever the hell they wanted. And now with the IARP, which, oh, by the way, is going to be gone after 2 more. They got Kansas and LSU. And then we're going to revert back to the old bullshit, which is worse, in my opinion. I get that people want the hammer to come down on these programs. I understand it. And it did on black assistants. And that's my problem here. That's my problem is people serve time.
Book Richardson's done jail time. What, yes. 10-year show cause on top of that? Like, he's paid the ultimate price. Just freaking leave it at that.
I talked to somebody who just talked to Book Richardson, and I've talked to Book several times through this process and seen tears come down his face.
Yeah.
His life is over as he knew it, right? Did he make a mistake? Of course. He admits to that. Does that warrant a 10-year show cause where he's done from college basketball forever? The only thing he kind of knew how to do? No, it doesn't warrant that. And that's my take, is the difference here from the head coaches, whether it's the Andy Enfield, same thing, by the way. Andy Enfield got nothing at USC. Tony Bland went to jail. And I can't comprehend this. That's That's what's wrong in this whole thing, especially now when you look at, Rob, the landscape when kids are allowed to get paid. I get that the goalposts move. I understand that. But ultimately, everything has changed, and it's been 5+ years. What are we doing?
Yeah. It's like the Kelvin Sampson thing. I mean, he literally got fired from Indiana for something that was legal like
A couple years
4 years later.
Right.
I just can't wait for it to be over. It's such a joke that the FBI was like, we got your playbook. It's such a joke that this IARP thing was brought in to do this. I'm sick of it. Nothing's going to happen. You know, it's just business as usual.
Nothing happened to anybody for the most part that wasn't a black assistant coach. Think about that.
Nothing. Chuck Person went to jail.
Chuck
Book
Person
went to jail.
Lamont Evans went to jail. You had really a couple of Adidas reps that went to jail.
Okay, but what happened to like lack of institutional control? If your assistant coach is doing this and they're going to jail for doing this, you're the boss.
I think
you oversee all of this stuff.
Right. I think the IARP, Rob, decided, you know what, unless there's proof that you had knowledge, that you shouldn't be held accountable.
I have such a hard time believing that they don't know what their assistant coaches are doing, because these coaches micromanage everything. They know everything that's going on. That is bullshit.
Yeah,
There's no way.
Listen,
I get you have to prove it, but right. When I think about this myself, and I'm like, thinking about, there's just no way. There's no way they don't know what their assistant coaches are doing. I really struggle with that.
And if they don't, they should.
So they're doing a shitty job.
That's what I've said. That's kind of what I've said over the years, is maybe they don't know everything, but they know some stuff. They know some stuff that's going on. And if they don't know what their assistant coach is doing, you hired them. You have to have some accountability for hiring him and being their boss. So ultimately, if you do something that's egregious, it's going to come back to your employers, right? It's going to come back to ESPN and BTN and Rob Doster at Field of 68. It's going to come back to them.
Rob just skirts all accountability. It wouldn't come back to him.
It would not.
The first two, yes, but he'd
blame it on everybody else. But I get, again, like I do think Sean Miller and all these coaches probably got off pretty easy. It's going to be interesting to see what the Kansas one is, because that's a different scenario. Same thing with LSU. Those are a little different,
Agreed, but I just feel like this is going to be so predictable. Oklahoma State got a postseason ban, so Kansas could just get nothing.
Listen, if I'm a betting man, I'm with you 100%. I think if you're Bill Self today and your Will Wade is out of the game. So, I also feel like that's part of what the NCAA does here. And I know, again, this is IARP. This is independent, or supposed to be. But you wonder, too, like the guys that are out, are they just hitting harder because they can and they want to look? But nobody's looking tough now.
Will Wade will get a 30-year show cause.
I feel like if he's out,
coach anymore,
he could be the one. He could be the one head coach that gets hit hard because he's out. But even like Mark Godfrey didn't get hit. Like nobody's really gotten hit here, other than, again, for the most part, the black assistant coach, and that, to me, it's just not right. It's not right. And those guys, they serve their time. Book Richardson has already served 5 years.
He's done.
At least make it retroactive. At least do that.
Yeah, 10-year show cause, but 5 years you've been out, those count against it. Agreed.
Totally. He'll never work again in college basketball. Tony Bland will probably never. I think Bland got 3. I think Bland only got 3 years. So obviously they added on to Book Richardson's the academic component as well. So now life moves on. Arizona, Tommy Lloyd. Again, they lose a scholarship. They already took their postseason ban. Everybody gets a $5,000 fine. That's like across the board. Every school gets a $5,000 fine. To me,
that really hurts him. Hits him in the wall.
$5,000. Yeah, $5,000. That really kills him. I think what you have to do in the future, and the one thing I'm glad about, here's the only thing they've done right here. They have not hit postseason bans for the kids.
Yeah,
because
totally.
you're 5 years down the road now. Like, there's no reason these kids should serve
I mean,
any
I get that the school has to be held accountable, but even the scholarship reduction kind of feels like, well, what did they do?
Right, hurts the kid. It
It
hurts
just
some kid that
it
could have got
hurts
a
some
scholarship.
player that would have had a full ride.
What I think you got to
Whatever.
do in these
Yeah.
cases is make it such a severe financial penalty for the institution.
So
I think that's the only way to do it. 5,000? No. Let's make it 5 million. Let's make it so big. Listen, they're doing all these fucking buyouts anyway, buying out coaches left and right, whether it's basketball or football. Make it $5 million for these, not 5,000. Come on.
Agreed. I mean, the postseason ban to Oklahoma State was one of the worst things we've seen.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy. Those kids that
should have Mike Boynton on today.
Especially in the transfer portal. Yeah, I'm sure he's just thrilled today.
With
the transfer portal where you came in and were like, you know what, I'm going to go to Oklahoma State, and we have a team that can make the NCAA tournament. And then in the fall, you're told, well, sorry, we're postseason banned because the last staff was cheating.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's a joke. The NCAA screws up all of this shit. And it's just,
I almost feel like at this point, Rob, we're almost at a point now where, like, it's almost like you might as well just police yourselves because they can't. They can't do it anymore. So what's the point?
But the problem is schools wouldn't police themselves.
I know they won't. But it's all, I've heard, even from like an academic component, that people say like schools should just be able to allow in whoever they want to allow in, and like whatever their requirements are. They should, like if one school takes in a kid at 2.0, that's up to them.
But I feel like that's already happening. I mean, look at the schools like Notre Dame or Northwestern, where they just can't take transfers that a lot of high major people could take.
Yeah.
And that's the highest upper echelon of the academic standard. But I do think that there are different standards for kids to get into schools in different conferences. I don't think that that's unfair to say. Is it not?
No. Hey, what if this had come out a year and a half ago? A year ago, April. So like almost 2 years ago now. What if this had come out before? Do you think Arizona would have fired Sean Miller?
If he had been vindicated?
I mean, this is basically vindicating him.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think if they knew that they could get off scot-free, that he would still be the coach at Arizona.
And think about it too, what he had, like the talent,
beast,
right?
I mean, look last year's team.
That's what I'm saying, and add Akinjo to last year's team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he wouldn't have left. Yeah, they would have been awesome. They've been really good.
I mean, they might have won the whole thing. I feel like the biggest difference between Sean Miller and Andy Enfield and some of these other coaches was that he was thrown out there in the public for something that was never able to be proven.
But in fairness, was very damning to hear.
It was. Sure.
You can't argue that was like
the conversation.
Not a big deal.
Yes. But it wasn't. That conversation didn't prove that.
No, I agree with you. But when the average college basketball fan hears that, it's $100,000 for DeAndre Ayton, that's a pretty jarring number and statement. And it's also, I think everybody just thought, well, they're just peeling back the book, and this is what happens all the time.
Still crazy to me. I mean, you still remember like do you remember where you were when that whole thing broke? The whole federal.
I don't know. I wasn't covering it. Like, I mean, I was interested, but I wasn't breaking the news or, I was just watching. I think I've told you that stuff.
I was in Newport, Rhode Island. I was covering Kyrie and Gordon Hayward's first training camp with the Celtics. It was the opening of training camp in Newport, Rhode Island.
And hopeful time in Boston.
Unbelievable. It was, yeah. I mean, think of like how much has changed.
Yeah, neither of those guys play there. I mean, Gordon broke his leg like 6 weeks later. I mean, crazy.
And then all hell.
No, I don't remember that. I was probably playing golf or some shit. I don't know.
I'm sure you were.
I don't know what I was doing, honestly.
Well, then a year later, I went down. I remember I went down to Tucson for a deal a year later, and talked to Book Richardson's then wife. They're now not together, and his kids, and it was just like is this real? Is this real? Like, because again, back then it was such a heavy, we're going to get these guys. And now you look back on it and you're just like, what were we doing? Like, what?
I'm just surprised the Southern District of New York does not mess around. Like, when they say that, you believe that shit.
Yeah.
So I would love to know what changed, because I wouldn't think they'd say that unless they really believe these guys are screwed.
Well, they got him. I mean, they got him and they went to jail.
But they didn't get the dudes.
No.
They talked about
agreed.
bringing down kingpins of the sport.
Right. No, there were people writing. There were people writing that 40 head coaches were going to be fired then. And I was just kind of laughing. I'm like, come on, what are we doing here? What in the grand scheme of things? What are we? I get it. Like, people have been cheating for years. They're going to continue to cheat. Right now with NIL, people are cheating, right? Like, NIL's legal, but you're not supposed to give kids anything for recruiting inducements. Well, come on, that shit's happening everywhere.
It's all recruiting inducements.
Right.
But so they're also recruiting inducements in the open. I mean, the Nigel Pack story was like out there. Right. People knew what he got to go. Yep. So I know they are using it.
All right, let's move on to something better. Let's move on to the ugliest game we both saw in a while. Well, I saw an uglier one. Alabama's been involved in a couple ugly ones here recently. Alabama, Carolina, that 4 overtime one out in Portland.
You didn't think that was a basketball masterpiece there?
That was not a masterpiece. And then last night, big game for Memphis, going to Tuscaloosa, playing Alabama. They hadn't beaten a top 5 team, I think, in 10 years, Memphis. And they almost had them. They hung around a little bit. It was ugly, but they almost had them. And Alabama, man, like, I don't know if Memphis is great, but Alabama's won a bunch of good games here early. And with a young team, they're 9-1, playing 4 freshmen, big minutes. And Brandon Miller stepped up last night when it mattered. What's your take? Is this Alabama team, is it Final Four material?
I don't know who is Final Four material yet. I just think that, and you guys have talked about this a lot on the After Dark stuff about who is a great team right now. I'm really not sure if there is anyone yet that's separated themselves. You could make the argument that UConn is, but then also, when you look at who Connecticut has played, they went to PKI, they beat Oregon, who was majorly depleted. They handled Alabama, which is a great win. They beat Iowa State, who Iowa State, they played great against Carolina, but they got murdered by Iowa. Oklahoma State is okay. Florida is okay. So even UConn, I'm looking at the schedule they've played.
They're the best team. If UConn, Purdue, and Virginia are the 3 elite teams today. Now, again, there's other teams with higher upside. But if you look at that, how many times did you see UConn last week? Saw them at least once, right?
I did 5 games last week. I didn't watch it.
No, I meant in Portland. How much did you see UConn?
They were the one team that I didn't get to see. They were on opposite of our game. Okay. So I saw them a couple
times. I saw them a couple times. I like UConn a lot. To put it in perspective, I'm not sure that a player on that team would have been in the rotation of Jim Calhoun's national, like the teams when he had like Okafor and Rip Hamilton and Karan
like seven pros on their team. Yeah,
they had dudes. Like, I'm not sure.
Sonogo would be in the rotation.
Is Sonogo better than Josh Boone?
Josh Boone was pretty good.
That's what I'm saying. Is he better than Josh Boone? Is he better than Hilton Armstrong?
Hard to say.
I
think it's like a debate.
Right.
We would need to bring the UConn expert Rob Doster over, I think, to debate that.
Yes.
But even like I look at the UConn team that we lost to in the Sweet 16, where it's like their front court was the beat, Stanley Robinson, Jeff Adrian. They were really good. Yes. They were really, really good. That's actually a pretty valid point. But my point is about Alabama, I'm not sold on anyone yet as a legit Final Four
national title team.
Yes, like I still have not seen.
Like, who would be the one? Who would be the one that you would have the most confidence in that if I like we talked about this a little bit last week, but like,
I mean, Connecticut, their schedule has been not bad. I mean, and like they've challenged themselves at PKI, but it's not like some of the other teams we've seen. Houston, offensively, it can get pretty nasty at times.
Yep.
Defensively, they're obviously amazing. They crush you on the offensive glass. I mean, Tennessee's 9-1, Purdue's still 10-0. I mean, I do like, and this is going to sound, people will crush me for this, but with Zach Edey being as dominant as he is and the shooting they put around him,
Yep.
I think they're much improved defensively. I honestly don't know. I'm looking at these teams. I just feel like everyone, Tennessee on offense has some major question marks. They've shot the ball horrifically. Defensively, they're incredible.
Yep.
Virginia is a pretty good mix, I feel like. They're top 16 in defense, top 15 in offense. They've got some guards that can play. They have a point guard who's played in the national title game. I guess I'll go Virginia. They're a great balance of both.
They're the safest pick. That's why you went with Virginia, because you trust their coach.
Because I'm a wimp, huh?
No, listen, I might do the same thing. They're the safest team. Like Alabama, high upside, but they could get knocked out in the first round. It wouldn't shock you at all.
Yeah.
Arkansas, like maybe. I mean, again, their upside. Nobody's going to have more overall NBA talent, even without Brazil being hurt. I think than Arkansas. Maybe I'm wrong, but they got dudes. I mean,
no, they do. They have players. They have players. How much do you think with Nimari Burnett's injury that changes things for Alabama? You'd think that he would have probably been guarding Kendrick Davis,
right,
who had 30 last night.
They had no length.
Honestly, look, right.
That's the problem with Alabama's backcourt to me is like they just, with Quinterly and Sears, they are small.
Yeah.
And luckily,
Quinterly is getting them up. He is getting them up.
Yeah, like Alabama to me is kind of a high upside team that again, I just kind of want to see how they develop. I really like their chemistry. I like Brandon Miller. I think he's a good team guy.
Yeah.
Instead of wanting all the attention.
He was great in the second half, too.
Yeah. So, and Memphis to me, Memphis fans went off on me after the game because I put out a tweet basically saying, I think they're a tournament team. However, their best win is against Auburn so far. An Auburn team that hasn't beaten anybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Auburn could be an NIT team, and it wouldn't shock the hell out of me. Now, again, I trust Bruce Pearl. He'll probably get him in the NCAA tournament, but I don't love Auburn this year. And the rest of the way, what if Memphis loses both games to Houston?
I mean, that's the issue you have with the American is that if it's down, and Wichita State has been down from what we've seen, and you think about SMU and UCF and USF and Temple and Tulane.
And what if you lose to a couple of those? What if you don't beat Houston?
You have to beat the teams that are below you. And honestly, if you don't get a great non-conference win, you probably need to beat Houston to feel really, really good about it at least once.
That's my take. My take is what you go 0-2 against Houston, which Memphis could do this year. Remember last year, they beat them. But they beat him without Sasa or Mark. This is a different Houston team, in my opinion.
I mean, who's the third best team in the American round? UCF is 7-2.
Yeah.
Lost to Miami 2. Lost to UNC Asheville by 3 in double overtime. Cincinnati 6-4. Wichita State 6-4.
So according to Ken Palm, it's UCF.
Yes,
it's UCF, and they're like 65. Cincinnati 75. The problem in some of these teams at the bottom, you can't lose to an East Carolina, a Tulsa, an SMU, a South Florida. Those are all, 180 and below.
Yep.
So all I'm saying is I do think Memphis is a tournament team. But again, if Auburn doesn't win and you don't beat Houston and you stub your toe a couple times, which I don't think Memphis is that good that they're not going to stub their toe.
Well, and they just shoot the ball so poorly.
That's what I'm saying.
Why would you not just pack it in and be like, just beat us from 3? 1 of 12 last night. And their 1-make came with 0.6 seconds on the clock.
Right.
Now, in fairness to Penny Hardaway's team, they were so injured and foul ridden last night. I mean, they lose DeAndre Williams at the, I think, 7-minute mark in the second half. Kendrick Davis rolls his ankle the last 4 minutes. They play without him. Malcolm Dandridge hurt his knee or hurt something running in transition. They did not have their full collection of players, especially in the second half. But I just think teams are going to just dare them to shoot. And if they get hot, then they'll beat you. But, I mean, 1 of 12, that's not taking very many, and it's definitely not making very many.
Not good. Not good at all. I like I said, I do think Memphis is a tournament team. I think with Kendrick Davis, with DeAndre Williams.
And their defense. I mean, they turned you over like crazy. So, and they turned Alabama like crazy. 19 turnovers last night.
Exactly. All right. Make sure you subscribe to the we're going to have an interview coming up with Cason Wallace, Kentucky freshman Cason Wallace, one of the best freshmen in the country. But want to, before we go to Cason, tell you also, in addition to subscribing to the pod, make sure you watch. We have a game this week on Field of 68, Rob. I don't know if you knew that. First ever game on Field of 68. It is down in Greenville.
Who's the announcer crew?
I'll tell you that in a second. They have much better analysts than when you're on.
I can't believe I even didn't get the call.
No, you demand too much money. That's your problem. You demand way too much money.
Plus, you complain so much from Field of 68,
and you complain how busy you are. We didn't want to.
No, I don't.
Added workload.
Listen, this is a sprint. I will say that in the summertime, I don't do much, but in the winter, you can't say that I don't at least work hard. You can at least say that about what I'm doing.
The thing is, so the game is two of the best mid-majors. Stephen F. Austin, Furman, Saturday, 4:30.
Furman's fun.
Really fun. Yeah. So it's going to be, we'll stream it on Field of 68, and it's in Greenville, South Carolina. So to be honest, you might have wanted this gig because you could have gotten dinner at Hall's and probably play golf Friday.
Dang. It's probably true.
I know. True. So anyway, we went with a backup crew. Couldn't get Hummel, so we went with a backup crew. So John Fana will be calling the game. He'll be doing the play-by-play, with Terrence Oglesby doing analyst, and Bobby Doster on the sideline.
Oh, God.
Yes.
I just can't even fathom. This dude's going to think he's God's gift of sideline reporting and out there just asking the stupidest questions. Are they giving him I hope that the event is negotiated kind of like the NBA after, the under 8 timeout, the coach interview.
I got to find out.
See, Doster trying to pull these coaches over during the game.
I'm just going to make sure that Rob gets some insight from Talia Goodman on how to do sidelines, because he needs all the help he can get, and she's way better.
Totally. I'm just looking forward to Rob giving an in-game report of like, guys, the guys were really tired in the huddle there, and they were drinking lots of water. Back to you, John. And we'll be like, wow, that was the worst sideline hit that we've ever heard. And
great insight, Rob.
Doster's finest work. Guys were breathing hard, drinking lots of water.
Listen, Rob's probably going to be eating throughout most of the broadcast. So I don't even know, honestly, how many hits he'll actually be doing. I think less is more when you come to sideline hits for Doster down in Greenville. But again, make sure you watch that game. First game of what I think might be many on Field of 68 between Stephen F. Austin and Furman. Two really, really good mid-majors. Two coaches that are going to be in the mix for high major jobs here coming soon, Bob Ritchie and Kyle Keller. So make sure you watch that. And let's get to it right now. I know you weren't able to be on for this one. You wanted to. But Cason Wallace, one of the best two-way freshmen, all-around freshmen in the country, Kentucky combo guard, who I think is going to be critical to Kentucky's whether they can go deep in the tournament this year.
These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. I couldn't believe how easy it was to create a free job post on LinkedIn Jobs. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who'd you like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Have to finish the year strong, and right now is the time to find that right team member that might help you do that. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/good. That's linkedin.com/GOOD to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, now pleased to be joined by my favorite player on the circuit 2 summers ago, Kentucky freshman Cason Wallace, the only person that I actually went up to and said, I love watching you play. That's not to say I didn't like other players, Cason, but man, you just compete. You compete at a level, and you did. On the AAU circuit, not many dudes guard. You guarded. You guarded in AAU, so I knew you were going to guard in college.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that sets me apart. So, don't want to be like everybody else. You have to have some type of it factor that is different from everybody else, because everybody can score at this level. It's hard to find something that sets you apart.
So I think because of that, I kind of underrated the other parts of your game, because I came away saying like, oh my God, like he's so tough. He guards. I don't think I understood what a good shooter you were, number one. You're shooting 50% from three so far this year in college, which is really impressive because most guys start off slow, right? Most guys as freshmen, even really, really good shooters, generally start off slow. And then the part of your game that I think has really impressed me the most is your ability to run a team and make people better. Did you feel like that was something also that was getting lost in everybody talking about how great you were defensively?
I think a lot of people don't understand how much I do besides defense, because that's part of being a leader. And, I'm a good leader on the team. So just being able to keep guys organized, that's part of being a point guard as well. So knowing where everybody's supposed to be at and helping your teammates when they're lost, just being a good teammate and being a leader.
So I heard you doing the podcast with CJ and Brennan, and one of the things you said was, I played center on my AAU team, which to me is bananas, right? Like you're I don't know, 6'3". I'll give you maybe 6'3.5", right? But that's it. And you're playing center. How long, did you grow up playing point guard and just played center for a stretch? Because you look like a natural point guard now.
No, I actually started off at center and playing in the post until middle school. That's when I started transitioning to being a point guard. And it was tough, but it was something I had to adapt and learn. So once I stepped out, I never went back really. Or I did, but that's only went to play center because I knew a little bit about it. And plus that's what we needed at the time. So,
So the class, the Texas guard class, everybody talked about, this freshman class, right? It was what you and all of you guys were from pretty much the Dallas area, I think, right? You, Keontae George, who's now at Baylor, Arterio Morris, who's now at Texas, and Anthony Black, who's at Arkansas. Am I forgetting somebody?
Yes, many people.
I'm sure I'm forgetting many people, but the highly ranked ones. Who else am I forgetting?
Jordan Walsh at Arkansas. I
don't call him a guard, though.
Oh, we're talking about guards?
Yeah. I was just talking about guards. 4 of you guys were elite level high school guards coming out of Texas. Am I forgetting anybody else?
Yeah, we got DJ. He's at Tennessee.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yep. Yep. What was the competition? What was the competition like between all you guys? Because some of you guys were on different circuits too. I know Arterio, when I saw him, I think he was on the Under Armour, Adidas, one of those. But what was the competition like between you guys?
Every time we was on the court, it was competition. We weren't friends on the court, but off the court, we kicking it, whenever we're around each other, because we're all so spread out. But on the court is business.
So you come out of the gates this year, you're doing well. Personally, the team kind of got off to not a tough start, but certainly the 2 big games you guys had, were Michigan State Champions Classic, I was there, and then the one at Gonzaga, and you came up short in both of those. What was the feeling like in the locker room or with the team coming out of those two? Was it, Michigan State, you kind of let one slip away a little bit. Gonzaga, they beat you. I mean, they flat out beat you out there. What was the mindset like coming out of there and going into the game against Michigan in London?
I mean, both of those games hurt, obviously, because we're on the road, we traveled, and you don't want to fly back on a loss. Like, that's a bad feeling. But we knew we didn't want to keep repeating that cycle. We had to go out there, execute. And plus, we weren't really practicing on finishing games, like Coach said. Like, in Michigan game, we were more prepared to finish the game, and we played more aggressive throughout the whole game. So I feel like we approached the game differently.
What was the best part off the court of the London experience?
I'd say after we won the game, like, everybody had a smile on their face in the locker room. Like, no matter how many minutes they played, the performance, like, nobody had their head down. We all was happy that we won.
Did you guys have a chance to go around at all before the game? I know you got there a couple days before. Did you do anything, sightseeing, anything in London that you were able to kind of take in?
A little bit. We went to go see the clock, but really that time change kind of messed us up. So whenever we could sleep, we slept. Really.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Hey, what's it like? I've said this to people, like, Oscar is just a different dude. Like, forget about on the court. Like, off the court, that dude never stops smiling. He is the happiest human being I think I've ever seen in my life. Like, never in a bad mood, and just like the nicest guy you'll ever meet. And obviously, we see what he does on the court, right? How hard he plays, all about winning, all that. Give me your favorite Oscar story so far. Give me something, funny, maybe that we haven't seen that kind of hits you about so far being around or playing with him.
That's tough because he is always in a good mood. Like, even though we're human, like, he does have his bad days, but he doesn't have a way of showing it. Like, when he's down, he kind of keeps a smile on his face. So it's kind of hard to know when he's upset. But, like, the caringness of him is something that stands out to me. Like, he always checking up on teammates when he's around. Like, if you're one-on-one, he'll just stop you like, hey, how you doing? Like, you good? Just talk to me, So not everybody can do that.
How much fun is it playing with a big guy like that too, who just goes not? I mean, that Michigan State game was ridiculous because people don't realize, like, he hadn't done anything really for a month, right?
Yeah, a long time.
I mean, for him to go out there and play and put up the numbers he did and impact the game the way he did was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, National Player of the Year unanimously. It's not going to happen many times. So his presence on the court, like, he doesn't even have to score 1,000,000 points to be relevant on the court. Like, he just plays hard and does everything he can, really.
Hey, I put out a stat the other day. I don't know if it might have changed a tiny bit, but there are only 15 players in the top 100 recruits that are averaging a double-figure scoring right now. You're one of them. You're averaging about 11 a game. Why do you think that's a low number? That is a low number, Cason. I have my ideas of why I think that is with this freshman class. What's your take on this from your perspective of maybe why a lot of freshmen are struggling out of the gates this year?
Because it's another level. Like, you were in high school, now you're going to another level. Like, you kind of prestige. So it's a lot of things that you need to learn to play in college basketball. Like, there's a lot of changes as well. People are more athletic. Yep. They're long, taller, smarter. Like, and it's not like you're playing with other people that doesn't know basketball. Like, your teammates also know basketball. So you're not going to get as many shots as you did in high school, or it's not going to be as easy to score as it was in high school. So there's really just changes that you need to learn, and learning your teammates, like it's a good amount that goes into it.
What's been the hardest part for you? Like, because again, you guarded in AU in high school. Like, what's been the one area that you've been surprised that maybe has been the most difficult of your adjustment from high school to college?
Playing with pace, being able to come pick and rolls, reading it, and making the right play. Like I said, like people are longer, more athletic, they're taller, so it's harder to see people, but you got to trust that they're going to be at the right spot at the right time. So a lot of it is built off trust. So I feel like that's one of the hardest things to adjust to.
The other reason from my perspective, and I've been doing this a while, why this freshman class is having a little bit harder time out of the gates than a lot of other ones is because you're playing against guys that are in their 6th year now. A lot of these guys got their COVID year, so they're even older. Normally, and a lot of the bigs, let's face it, a lot of these bigs that you're going up against or playing with, as Oscar's case, would be gone 10 years ago. But they're not because the NBA has changed, and obviously NIL has changed it as well. So I think that also plays into the fact of, and a lot of your freshmen, a lot of these guys have been hurt, right, coming out of the gates. Nick Smith, Cam Whitmore, a lot of the top, Vince over at USC. Hopefully he's going to get better. He's got a heart issue. He hasn't played at all. So a lot of the top guys have been hurt coming out of the gates as well. So it's been kind of, Lively and Whitehead at Duke missed time in the preseason. So it's been interesting to watch. I think, most of these guys are going to kind of catch up. And once conference play really gets going, I think you're going to start to see this freshman class take off a little bit more. But it's definitely been interesting to see so far. Biggest thing you miss, is it Whataburger from coming from Texas to Lexington?
Easy. Easy.
You're a big Whataburger. So rank the hamburger places, and like everybody's got their place. Obviously, it sounds like Whataburger is clearly one for you. Like Five Guys. What else?
I'm not really I don't go to fast foods for burgers. Like Whataburger is just like that spot for me. Like I don't have to get a burger. I can get chicken tenders. Like I don't have a burger spot.
All right. So you usually go get chicken tenders there.
I get both burger and chicken.
How important is this game coming up? CBS Sports Classic. Again, you guys are still, I don't want to say searching for that first resume win, but you want to beat a ranked team. You want to get some momentum going into league play. You get UCLA here soon in New York at the Garden. Big game for you, right? Big game for you guys coming up. What's the significance of that game kind of leading into, obviously, you have Louisville, you've got other non-conference games to worry about, but how big is that one?
Really, I don't even know yet because we haven't even talked about it. Like we're still focusing on Yale coming up. I couldn't even tell you right now.
You're all about the next one, which is the way you should be. That's the way you should be. I know your family is big into your brother. I was actually talking to Paul Hewitt recently, who coaches the Clippers G League team, and he was raving about your brother. Like absolutely, like we were talking about you, and then it went on to your brother a little bit, and he was like, he is the best dude ever to coach. And kind of the same thing has been said about you. You're super coachable, you're easygoing, you're going to play with kind of one way, and really you don't see a lot on your face with how you're playing, right? Have you been told that before? Like whether you got 20, whether you got 2, you're going to have the same expression on your face no matter what. What do you attribute that to? What do you attribute, again, who in your family, as I assume your parents have had a lot to do with you and your brother and everybody obviously raving about you guys, not on the court necessarily, but off the court?
I'd say my parents and my cousin Terrell. I mean, they taught us, like, don't get too high, don't get too low. Like, basketball, it could switch just like that. So it's a game of runs. So you can't be down on a play that happened way early in the game, and you can't get too happy because now they're going to start going at you and you all messed up. So you can't have high, you can't be up and down. You got to be steady.
What's the biggest thing that needs to happen for you guys? I'll tell you what, like, I know you guys, some people around the country might be a little bit down on you guys. I actually think you have all the pieces to win the whole thing this year. I really do. And you've got 2-point guards, which you generally need these days. For the last 15 years, you need 2-point guards to be able to win a national title for the most part. You've got multiple shooters. And again, you've surprised me with your ability to shoot it at the rate you've shot it at. Not necessarily that you made them, but 50%, man, is pretty impressive coming out of the gates. And then obviously you've got, maybe the best big man in the country, certainly the most proven big man in the country in Oscar, and then some other really good pieces. What's the key? If you had to point to something right now, what's the key to being able to get this thing going and get it to a point where you guys are right there for a national title?
I'd say toughness. Like you said, we have great players. Like everybody on this team, to me, are NBA players. So if we're all coming out and playing tough, like I feel like that'll be us at our peak and hardest, to beat. So I'd say us having that toughness and grit, that's something that we need to have to go far this year.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking a few. I know you got finals, so I'm gonna let you go so you can start studying for those. I don't need your parents, mad at me for you not hitting the books here before your finals. But I appreciate it. Good luck. I'll see you soon, I'm sure, and happy holidays. All right.
All right. Thank you. Happy holidays.
You got it.